What's up, everyone? This is Mikoy, and welcome to the channel. I haven't made wrestling coverage in a while, so I might as well start now. It's time to cover Hell in a Cell matches up to October 2024 because we are getting ready, of course, for SummerSlam, which is at the time this video is being recorded. We're getting ready to set on a big collision between Brock Lesnar and Obafemi inside Hell in a Cell. And if this is Brock's retirement match, what a way for Brock to go out. Holy crap. So I think it'd be fitting to prepare ourselves and rank each and every Hell in a Cell match that has ever been released by the Big Dub. So I've got 6 tiers here. I got 5-star, awesome, solid, okay, disappointed, and crap. So let's get things started, shall we? Starting off with The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels from Bad Blood 1997. Iconic match, but even before the iconic moment of Kane just tearing apart the cell door and costing his brother the victory, I think the match itself was still really, really good. Shawn is an absolute ragdoll, just flying around, and Taker, one of the big iconic moments was Taker pulling Shawn down and flipping into the announce table. That is already an iconic spot. But the match kept going. It kept getting bloodier. It was just very aggressive. I really liked the match. So it's going in awesome tier. It's not the best. I do recognize it being a 5-star match by Dave Meltzer, but star ratings don't really apply to here, even though I just literally have the top spot as 5 stars. To me, it doesn't scream 5-star match, although I can recognize it being a very, very good match and what Hell in a Cell should absolutely exemplify. There's a perfect story to their rivalry, and what a way to end it off. Like I said, Hell in a Cell used to be such a special attraction, and this was already the first step in it. And what a way to go out with the next year. King of the Ring 1998, Undertaker versus Mankind. This one should be 5 stars. What a amazing, iconic moment. It really, really cemented Mankind / Mick Foley's career to absolute new heights. Taker did his part as well, throwing Mick from atop of the Hell in a Cell twice. Never before seen happening. Really worried for Mick Foley at some points, but we know Mick Foley can take an ass kicking. But yeah, if you're a new gen WWE watcher, I recommend watching this match if you want an old but a classic. This is a classic match. Now, I'm not gonna rank Kane versus Mankind because this was nothing. Was this the 5-minute contest one, which it basically ended in a no contest? I don't care. The match was crap. So we're about putting it in crap tier. Next is The Undertaker versus the Big Boss Man at WrestleMania 15. One of the most boring Hell in a Cell matches I've ever seen. Yeah, heel versus heel matches never really work for me. So this one gets an automatic downgrade, but the match itself was slow. It was so plotting. Taker can work a great match, but when it's with the Big Boss Man, I don't feel that chemistry. It just left up to being a boring match. And, of course, we can't forget about that ending, where the Big Boss Man was literally... You can't show it on the network anymore. So, I'm gonna say it's crap. I'm not gonna rank Candle from Hell, because that's not Hell in a Cell. But I am going to rank next is No Way Out 2000. Cactus Jack versus Triple H. What a blood feud this was. After coming off an amazing street fight from the Royal Rumble, they upped the ante. At this point, they upped the ante so much that it literally had to be taking place inside Hell in a Cell. Mick Foley was going in. This is his last desperation. That he needs to win the title before WrestleMania, and he's got to get through Triple H, otherwise his career was over, at that point anyway, in 2000. And he really took it to Triple H. Triple H was a made man. And in 2000, February 2000, the Game was the man. He cemented his status here as like the top star in the company. Mick Foley, of course, giving it his all, falling this time a planned spot because the breaking through the cell wall, the cell roof, that was unplanned in 1998. But this one was planned in 2000, and it just left a huge crater. Very, very iconic spot. And yeah, Triple H and Mick Foley just had amazing chemistry at that point. I'm gonna put it at a 5-star. It's an amazing match, and it's an amazing rewatch. It ages well. It ages well. Next up is Armageddon Hell in a Cell, the 6-way between, believe it or not, this is The Rock's and Stone Cold's and Rikishi and Kurt Angle's only Hell in a Cell to date. I remember watching this match and thinking, wow, they really spent a lot of the time outside the cell. There was more stuff that is happening outside the cell than what's in it, because in it, the 6 men were just bumbling around and punching each other. When they get outside, that's where the spots actually happen. And of course, we got that iconic spot of Taker pushing Rikishi, not chokeslamming him, pushing him off the stage, off the cell, and into a bedside truck. That's an iconic spot. Rikishi was known to take bumps like that, but the match itself wasn't that good. I can only remember like the last 5 minutes when it was just finisher spamming, and of course that drop. But otherwise, I think it's just okay. It's a solid defense for Angle, definitely, and it was the culmination of every feud that happened in 2000. But it wasn't that good of a match. It was just okay. Next up is 2002, Judgment Day, Triple H versus Chris Jericho. The Game certainly did not need this win. This is I think one of the feuds that I think didn't need a Hell in a Cell stipulation, and seeing it took me by a complete surprise. Like, why was this contested inside Hell in a Cell? They should have done a street fight or something, or a no holds barred match. But yeah, the match itself was okay. It was okay. It was better than the 6-pack, definitely, because it was just one-on-one, to no bumbling all the time. And Tim White took a very, very scary-looking bump that basically ended his refereeing career. But the finish was unique. Pinning on top of the Hell in a Cell, never been done before, never been done since. So I think it's a unique finish, but the match itself was basically just okay. This one, next up, is Brock Lesnar versus The Undertaker at No Mercy 2002 inside Hell in a Cell. You ever seen a manager bleed? Paul Heyman did it, and my God, Lesnar and Taker bled buckets in this match. Taker especially. Good God, did he lose amount of blood. But the match itself was violent as hell. The match itself was violent. It was brutal. It was 2 big hosses bouncing each other around and just wailing at each other with weapons. It's great. And Undertaker was playing with a cast as well. He was wrestling with a cast because Brock broke his hand. But the match itself was still great. Brock carried into a great match, and Taker definitely specially carried. I'm gonna put this at awesome. It was a really violent match, and a perfect main event to No Mercy. Next up is Bad Blood, Triple H versus Kevin Nash. Yeah, even the referee got bloodied here, Mick Foley. But I can remember nothing about this match. Again, Triple H and Nash never really worked for me. The other match I can think of is TLC 2011 when they had the Sledgehammer ladder match. What a stupid stipulation. But this match wasn't that good. It was just mostly Nash. Nash was a believable babyface, but it just lacked the speed that I need to bounce off of, because Triple H works well with speedier guys. Nash was a slow dude, so he couldn't really work to his full potential in this one. And by 2003, the game was on the reign of terror with a world title. He basically beat everyone. So many people were sick of Triple H around this time and made Raw very much unwatchable. So I'm gonna put this as, it's not as bad as the matches on Crap, but I am gonna put this in disappointed because it was underwhelming. Next is Triple H versus Shawn Michaels, Bad Blood 2004. Well, this match was definitely good. It's better than the matches we've been talking about lately for Triple H matches. I mean, Triple H has only had really one good cell match before this, and this one was definitely not a bad match. It was still very, very good. Triple H and Shawn were miles better than Triple H Nash, and the feud was really hot. It was reaching its full potential here, and it all led to Hell in a Cell. But they've had better matches up to that point. The SummerSlam 02, the triple threat they had with Benoit, and then it all led to basically Hell in a Cell. And basically, this is one of the only feuds that with Triple H and Evolution, in which Evolution wasn't really a factor. It was just the burning hatred of Triple H versus Shawn Michaels. It was very good. But the match itself delivered, and it was a fitting main event to close out Bad Blood 04. The match itself, it just didn't click as heavily as SummerSlam 02. Shawn's comeback was pretty good though, and having the game win, I mean Shawn won SummerSlam 02, which was nice, but I'm gonna put this in solid. It's a good one, just not a heavy hitter. It could have been better. Basically, could have been better. Next is Triple H Batista. Finally, we're getting back to a good Triple H Hell in a Cell match. And this one was definitely a good match. Batista was on the rise. He was World Heavyweight Champion. And he had to prove himself to be a main event star. WrestleMania was okay. Backlash was okay. But this is the match that made Batista such a big threat inside the WWE ring. And Hell in a Cell was definitely a proving ground for Big Dave. And the match itself was violent. It was violent as hell. And they played around that barbed wire steel chair spot a lot. It was violent. It was gory. It felt like a snuff film watching it. And Triple H bled buckets again. He even took a chair shot to the freaking head with the barbed wire. And of course that amazing finish of Triple H about to hit Batista with the sledgehammer fell to a Batista bomb for the win. Man, the World Heavyweight Championship was on fire in its 2005, mainly because Batista held it for much of the year. So it was a good match. I'd put this in. It's not. You know what? I'll put it in 5-star. It's great. It's a great match. Mainly because I love Batista as a kid, and watching this as a kid, and now rewatching this as an adult, it's great. Another Hell in a Cell I have fond memories. Another Hell in a Cell match I have fond memories for is Undertaker versus Randy Orton at Armageddon 05. I loved the Randy Orton versus Undertaker feud. Definitely a childhood favorite feud of mine. Randy is in this cocky prick legend killer phase with Cowboy Bob. Had a great match at WrestleMania. Had a decent match at SummerSlam. Had a pretty good match at No Mercy, the handicap casket match. And it all culminated to Hell in a Cell. Love the promos going into this. They were so campy WWE, but it's so fun to look back on. The match itself was great. It was so great. Orton definitely feel like he belongs in the cell, and Undertaker definitely showed up as well. He put his working boots on, and the match definitely delivered. Both had amazing chemistry. The spots were great. The near falls were amazing. So, and of course, Orton reversing into a tombstone was nice. But Taker ultimately won. Awesome match. Definitely putting it here. Next is what I call the silliest match on this list. Well, the silliest match so far. It's DX versus McMahon's and Big Show, Unforgiven '06, the handicap Hell in a Cell bollocks. This match was so freaking bloody. Everyone basically bled. Vince bled, Big Show bled, DX. Holy crap! How are they not dead? They lost a lot of blood, and the spot with the Big Show, those ass hanging loose, and Vince having to put his full face in, scarred me as a kid. But it was a violent match. It's a solid watch, definitely. DX definitely were feeling threatened. Vince's shenanigans were really what saved this match from being bad. And of course, the finish with the sledgehammer shot to the back. It was nice. That's another case of a feud not necessarily needing a Hell in a Cell stipulation. I can forgive Undertaker Orton because it was leading into it. Batista Triple H led into it. This one didn't. I could have done with a street fight or a no DQ type situation, and it wouldn't have hurt. But yeah, that's another match where I'm like, the cell stipulation kind of cheapens it. Next is Batista versus Undertaker, World Heavyweight Championship, Hell in a Cell, Survivor Series 2007. As a kid, this was my favorite feud. Batista and Taker had such good chemistry with each other, and their matches mega delivered. I love their WrestleMania match. I love their Backlash match. I love their Steel Cage match they had on SmackDown. Love their Cyber Sunday match. And now Hell in a Cell, a culmination of my favorite rivalry of 2007. This is the big one. And the match itself wasn't as good as WrestleMania and Backlash, but it was still very nice. The near falls especially, where it could really swing either way who's going to walk out as world champion. And of course, the return of Edge definitely helped capitalize that match to exciting new heights. So, from all I can say, the match itself was awesome. It was so close to being 5 stars. Maybe they could have played around with a little bit more time, like give it an extra 5 minutes of near fall, close call action that they've had at WrestleMania. That definitely needed. That is definitely a need there. And Batista Taker definitely delivered. What an awesome feud ender this was. Forget about the Chose match that they had in 2009. Next up is 2008 SummerSlam. 18 years, we haven't had a SummerSlam Hell in a Cell match since this one. So Brock and Oba's got to really show up against, the last time we had that, Undertaker versus Edge. Undertaker was really kicking ass around this time, and this was basically prime Undertaker after having to suffer for so long. What was I gonna say? After having to suffer these boring frick finishes between him and Edge in 2008, the feud itself wasn't that good. They only had really a great WrestleMania match. They had a great TLC match at One Night Stand. And then the rest of it was kind of meh, whatever. The feud itself wasn't great. The hype leading up to this match in particular wasn't that special. It was La Familia over again. But the match itself over-delivered. Definitely deserving of a main event slot. It was great. It was so awesome. The spear through the cell wall. The fact that they even have to have an announce table spot, the chair shot. They even incorporated a little bit of TLC in there. Undertaker doing his own spear. There's a table spots, aplenty, and of course the tombstone at the end to seal the deal was great. And of course the ending was a little bit hokey with Undertaker literally sending Edge to hell. That was really hokey and definitely is very, very PG era. But it was a nice way to end the feud, and it definitely delivered on being a good match. I'll put it at awesome. It wasn't as awesome as the 5-star matches, per se, but it definitely earned its stripe for being just a definite feud ender. And now we come to the boring Hell in a Cell match, where Hell in a Cell got its own pay-per-view starting from 2009, because we needed to have Hell in a Cell every single year, so might as well make its own pay-per-view. Why not? Didn't really work, WWE. You ruined kind of your one special attraction and just overexposed it. Now we're getting 3 Hell in a Cell matches a year. Ugh, what a bad look. So first off, we had 2009. We had CM Punk versus Undertaker for the world title. It's a short match. It's a real short match, and Punk tried to do the best he can, but he proved Taker's words about him not being a ready world champion. Even though he had an amazing feud with Jeff Hardy, why couldn't Hardy's contract be extended to at least 2 months to have CM Punk versus Jeff Hardy take place inside Hell in a Cell instead? Then you would have made Punk into a credible champion, but no, Taker had to put a kibosh on it. Said, no, it's my world title reign. I'm only gonna take it from you because you're not ready for this limelight. And yeah, the match itself disappointed heavily. Next is 2009, John Cena versus Randy Orton. The first one of their two. The feud didn't even end because, Randy Orton versus John Cena, they really tried to play off this rivalry as like the rivalry to end all rivalries. This is the two biggest stars on Raw colliding. They had an Iron Man match the following pay-per-view. This wasn't the feud ender. But I've got to say, out of the two John Cena, Randy Orton Hell in a Cell matches, this one was the better one. Like 2009, because they were embroiled in such a big feud at the time, they had a fine match at SummerSlam. They had a great I Quit match at Breaking Point. And this one was definitely the better of their Hell in a Cell matches, but it's not really saying that much. I would put the Cena Orton here because it really just didn't feel big enough to warrant a Hell in a Cell. Maybe that's why they had the Iron Man match afterwards. But it wasn't a good look for WWE because they just overpush and overexpose this feud. And now they just had to fill in a quota and say, hey, give this the Hell in a Cell treatment. Why not? This next up is DX versus Legacy. This one definitely felt more deserved of a Hell in a Cell treatment. Out of the 3 matches they had in Hell in a Cell 09, this was definitely the one that they deserved the placement. Should they have gotten the main event? Sure. If they really wanted to build Rhodes and DiBiase up at this point in their career. It was nice. It was nice for them to share the main event spot and to go up against Triple H and Shawn. Very, very nice. It's a very nice cap for their young careers until this point. And they definitely delivered. They delivered in a pretty solid Hell in a Cell match, all things considered. The spot where they had to trap one of the members outside for the majority of the match. And then once that it's the other partner's turn. I think it was Shawn that was mostly inside the cell. Trips got locked out, and then afterwards it was DiBiase that got locked out, and Rhodes was the one locked inside them. Cody Rhodes just being trapped in. Cody Rhodes did not have a good time inside Hell in a Cell at 09 at least, but it was definitely a solid match. I wouldn't go back and rewatch this personally, but it was still solid. 2010, Randy Orton versus Sheamus for the WWE Championship. This really didn't need the Hell in a Cell stipulation. I know that they've feuded for the majority of 2010. They had an okay match at the Royal Rumble, which ended in a DQ. They had an okay match at SummerSlam, which ended in a DQ. Night of Champions, Sheamus finally lost the title to Orton, and then they have it here, Hell in a Cell. Every time these two wrestle, though, it's mostly fine. It's mostly more for WWE TV. This really didn't need the Hell in a Cell stipulation. I would have been okay if this was like no holds barred, personally, but that's another instance of another match needing a no holds barred stipulation instead of Hell in a Cell, because Hell in a Cell is supposed to be a feud ender. It's not. It's not really treated well here. Yeah, this one is just okay. I'll probably put it in the lower side of okay because there were no memorable spots I can remember aside from like the Irish Curse backbreaker, which he hit Simba in his knee in the steps. Poor Sheamus's knee at that point. But yeah, I can only remember the RKO in the steps to close it out. Kind of a boring match. Next is 2000, the other title match inside Hell in a Cell, Kane versus Undertaker. Now, this one definitely needed the Hell in a Cell stipulation. It's amazing how we never got a Kane versus Taker Hell in a Cell until 2010. This is the first time they ever went one-on-one. But the match itself was so boring. It was so slow. Taker was past his prime. Kane was an imposing world champion, but he did not have the stamina that he had in his earlier years. And the match itself just suffers as a result. And then the stuff with the urn and Paul Bearer shining a light and even turning on Undertaker to join with his son. Not a very good finish. And yeah, this main evented the show. Hell in a Cell 2010 was not good, y'all. Crap. On the higher end of crap, but yeah, it's crap. Next is 2011. Randy Orton versus Mark Henry. This match was a lot better than I remember it being, but it was still like okay because this is another match that did not need the Hell in a Cell stipulation. They just started feuding. They had a good match at Night of Champions, I'll give them that, but I thought that was better than this. They did not need the Hell in a Cell stipulation at all, and the match suffered as a result, so they had to play around the cell to make it look convincing enough. But the match itself, not very good. So I'm gonna put this at also disappointing, but on the higher end. Next is the triple threat between Cena, Punk, and Del Rio. I like the star power in this match, but I could remember nothing of it. And Cena walked in as champion because he needs to build that 16 time. He definitely needed another WWE Championship reign, which ended literally the month after, or maybe 2 weeks after even, if you're really stretching it. Hell in a Cell felt overexposed at this point, so the action was still nice. The ending, in hindsight, wasn't exactly great, but at the time it was compelling. 2011 was a strange time, y'all. But yeah, I remember skipping this pay-per-view when it was happening and just being nonchalant about the rest of it. It wasn't a very good one. It's mostly disappointed because CM Punk and Cena sharing a Hell in a Cell, that's never happened before. And Del Rio had won, which, why did he lose the title for only him to win it back here? Not very good. Just not a very good show. Oh, Hell in a Cell 2011. Next is WrestleMania 28, end of an era Hell in a Cell match. Now, people are very mixed about this match. People love it because it was two legends and who aren't exactly at their prime, but they still delivered a spectacle of a match. that had intense drama in it and had one of the best kickouts of all time. The Sweet Chin Music Into the Pedigree is a genuine top 5 kickout of all time. However, other people will criticize this match for being long, boring, and slow, and there's too much fluff in it. That I'm in somewhere in the middle, where I love all the drama and the intensity and the near falls and that kick out. I love all that. Sean's acting was solid. Like, please, you gotta, please, because Triple H is his best friend, Taker was someone he really, really respected. It was just Sean's acting in this one is top notch. Triple H's acting of do it or I'll do it for you, and Taker just being, what he is, defending the streak, defending his pride, his legacy in WrestleMania. It was so good. However, it was only really in short bursts. The match had to be filled out with all the punching and all the wearing down, all the wear and tear, all the spots with the weapons, etc., etc. The steel chair spot, and then you eventually get to the kick out. Eventually you get to the near falls. You get to eventually Taker's saliva dripping during his near fall of the tombstone, which is one of the most hilarious and disgusting things I've ever seen in wrestling. So where do I rank it overall? I still rank the match as awesome, but it's in the lower end of awesome because it is 30 minutes long, and you really need the patience to watch this match. It's still a good match. There were better matches on this show. Punk and Jericho was better. Rock and Cena was better than this one, but hey, it was still it still was needed because as you see here, 2009 to 2011, Hell in a Cell wasn't very good. This at least brought it back to where Hell in a Cell should be, and it's in a more respectable way. Next is CM Punk versus oh no. The only Hell in a Cell match in 2012 in this pay-per-view, in the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, was CM Punk versus Ryback. And it's not very good. I put it, Punk did not like working with Ryback. I could definitely feel like he did not like working with Ryback, and the match itself did not need the Hell in a Cell because this is literally the first match they'll ever have, and regrettably this is the one that Punk did not like. Yeah. Everything was just boring. Everything was just slow. Ryback was not ready. He was too green to be in this position. Even though he is being pushed, he didn't really have the memorable feuds to really build him up as, this legitimate threat to Punk. He was pushed way too fast, and being in this position, actively competing for the WWE Championship, it's not believable to me, and I was for sure thinking Punk was going to win, especially with the dumb finish with Brad Maddox. Yes, because this was this match that had the dumb finish of the referee low-blowing Ryback to cost Punk the victory. Not very good. Not very good. They tried to remedy it in 2013 with CM Punk versus Paul Heyman and Ryback because Punk was actively feuding with Paul Heyman around that time. He had an amazing match with Brock at SummerSlam. He had a okay match with Heyman and Axel at Night of Champions. He had a lower than average match at a Battleground with Ryback, and then you have this one, the culmination of all the CM Punk Heyman stuff. Punk won. it was nice to give Punk a win inside Hell in a Cell, but I feel like the match didn't really get elevated. Didn't really elevate Ryback because he was stuck to feuding with he was teaming with Curtis Axel at that point, and yeah, the match just suffered as a result. It's insanely bad how Punk was treated here. So 2013 Hell in a Cell, also crap. A bit better because the Paul Heyman drama, especially towards the end when they're on top of the cell, were really nice. It wasn't the match itself wasn't great. Next is Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship inside Hell in a Cell. Okay. So this feud was technically the start of their feud. They've been feuding all throughout 2013, actually, Orton and Bryan. They feuded since June, and they had great matches on Raw, plus the one that Daniel Bryan suffered a concussion on. And then the feud really kick-started when Orton turned heel, cashed in his Money in the Bank at SummerSlam. They had a good match at Night of Champions. They had what was supposed to be a good match at Battleground until the finish. And then the culmination of that is Hell in a Cell for the vacant WWE Championship. And Shawn was going to play special referee. The match itself was good. Don't get me wrong. Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton work well within each other. They work wonders together. But the match did not need the damn stipulation. It did not need Hell in a Cell to prove it. And then, ultimately, towards the end, it was just more authority stuff. Well, granted, the authority stuff just started, and this was basically to write off Daniel Bryan to be kicked out of the authority stuff until they brought him back for WrestleMania season. But yeah, the match was good. It's just the booking around it was crap. So I'm just left feeling disappointed. And granted, it did give us a proper WWE champion by the end, Randy Orton, which he should have had the belt to begin with, so we didn't have to do this stupid vacancy shoot. It's not good. The booking around this time was really, really bad. But yeah, just left me disappointed is all. And people were so hot for Daniel Bryan around that time. Can't forget about that. Next is 2014. We've had such a bad couple of years. The only thing that really saved it was 2012's, and it wasn't even at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. Hell in a Cell 2014, we've had John Cena, Randy Orton 2. This, to me, feels less of the blood feud between Cena and Orton, and it's more like they're just having a match for the sake of having a match. They didn't really utilize the Hell in a Cell well. They were wrestling in the WWE style we've come so much to hate around this time. And yeah, they just had a very, very 3-star Hell in a Cell match, which Cena won. Granted, this was only to set up Cena Lesnar again, but, you know, the match itself wasn't... Also, I love the fact that the higher one was... whoever, because Cena and Ambrose were feuding, and the stipulation is the winner has to feud with Rollins, the loser has to feud with Orton. And I'm like, okay, what the hell? Sort of having a tiering system with your WWE main event scene, okay. But yeah, the match, it was fine. It was just okay. But I'll place it below the Cena Orton one, because I definitely feel like the match they had at 2009 was so much better. Here in 2014, they're past their prime. They're much slower than they are because they're built more muscular. And the match they had was definitely Next is 2014 Hell in a Cell. The better of the two Hell in a Cell matches, where we had Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins, the culmination of their feud. It was good. Now, granted, Their feud has been weird, even though their feud also simultaneously has been amazing. So ever since the break of the Shield, these two are just joint at the hip, just hating each other. No contest at Battleground. The Lumberjack match was great, and then Roman Reigns tried to enter the picture, and he got hurt. So we're back to Ambrose, and now we have this one, Hell in a Cell, culmination of the Ambrose Rollins feud. The match itself was glorious. Both men absolutely putting all on the line to deliver quite the spectacle Hell in a Cell. The double fall from the side at the beginning was nice. The match itself really just never stops. The action was going. The pacing was great. Both Ambrose and Rollins have impeccable chemistry with one another. It's great. And then the finish happened. Dean Ambrose being scared by a Firefly hologram, and basically Bray Wyatt cost Ambrose the victory. I didn't like watching that finish, and it only made to have a Rollins have the definitive victory against Ambrose. I think this killed Dean Ambrose's push. Like, I personally, if Ambrose had just straight up won against Rollins inside Hell in a Cell, I feel like Ambrose could go places. But the fact that he lost this so much up to this point, despite having such an amazing character of wanting only vengeance against Seth Rollins for breaking up a brotherhood, that is exactly what we wanted to see. And we wanted to see Ambrose finally culminate and get the proper pay-per-view victory, right? It's the payoff that we've been building for all these months. But no, they instead pivoted to Dean Ambrose needing another feud, so we'll give him Bray Wyatt. No! I didn't like the finish, but the match itself was so great. So it's only going up to solid. If it didn't have a stupid finish and just had Ambrose win, I would have put this in at amazing. It would even be 5 stars. But no. The match was so good up until that finish. And you gotta factor the finish into these. So yeah, that was such a bad look for otherwise what could have been a perfect feud ender. Up next is 2015. The Hell in a Cell matches were starting to get good again. Now we have Roman Reigns versus Bray Wyatt. This is a feud ender, alright. Yeah. So this feud was pretty... It was okay. They had a decent match at Battleground. They had an okay tag team matches at SummerSlam and Night of Champions. And it all culminated to Hell in a Cell. Anyone but you, Roman. The match itself was fine. Nothing really memorable, but they hit their spots well. Roman spearing Wyatt through the table was nice. Bray getting to do that amazing character work that he's always been credited as. That roll-up spot was incredible. It was, Reigns and Wyatt can definitely work well within each other. And it's, did Hell in a Cell fit the end to their feud? Yeah, I'd say so. Much better than most of the matches in the OK tier, if I'm being honest. But it was solid. It was very, very solid. I'll put this at the bottom of solid because Reigns definitely need the mid-card feud to really push him back into main event after not being ready for the majority of the first year because people did not like Roman Reigns. He's unfortunately he's been damaged goods since, but yeah, Roman having the peak here and then feuding with Bray was definitely a much needed restart or refresh in his character, and beating him in Hell in a Cell, it was nice. Next is Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar. This feud's been weird. This 2015 feud that they've had with Brock and Taker was weird. Okay, Brock beating the Streak, good. They've had Undertaker comes back at Battleground to get his revenge on Lesnar. They had a match at SummerSlam, which was great, until the finish, because it was screwy. So they all culminated inside Hell in a Cell. And it was good. The match itself was great. The both really showed up, and they've had excellent spots, including ripping the ring canvas to show that hard part of the ring. And the spots they had were amazing. There were a little bit of stoppages because blood was being spattered, and people did not like it when does that. So Brock just kicks the doctors away. That was cool. But the match itself was definitely lived up to the violent. It was definitely PG violent. It wasn't as violent as we'll get to see other matches be or have been. But for this era in WWE, at least 2015, which is one sort of a gray area where booking wasn't really high and we're relying more on these old timers to carry most of our main event scenes. I think Brock and Taker definitely deserve their flowers here. For looking back on hindsight, it was a pretty solid match, all things considered. So I'll just put this at the top of solid. Definitely a feud ender. And again, another Bray Wyatt lead-in. Whoop-de-doo. Next is 2016. We had 4 Hell in a Cell matches in 2016. And this one is weird. This one is the weirdest one that they've made into a Hell in a Cell match. Undertaker versus Shane. The feud going into it was weird, but the match itself was a spectacle. WrestleMania 32 was widely criticized for its booking decisions, but what we can understand that this match in particular was a high point for at least one portion of it. The match itself was nice. The match itself was solid for about 10 minutes and then kaput. Because I wish the match got cut for time, because they definitely didn't need 30 minutes. Undertaker was hella past his prime, and Shane, he tried his best. He really trained up for this one, and the way that he delivered his punches were really memed on by the wrestling community back in the time. But, of course, the spots he had were great. The Van Terminator for the Coast to Coast off of Taker. The announce table spot was nice. And, of course, that iconic fall. It's definitely a WrestleMania moment match, just built on that one WrestleMania moment. But the rest of it, it was disappointing. It was disappointing. The longer it got, the more disappointing it got, and it just all led to the final part, the iconic fall. So I'm just gonna put this at the disappointment tier, around here actually. That's what I feel about Shane versus Taker. Sorry. Next is the pay-per-view, Hell in a Cell 2016. Actually a pretty good show for the most part. Not better than No Mercy, but for a Raw exclusive pay-per-view in the era of the new brand split, this definitely was a carrier show. First off, we had Roman Reigns versus Rusev for the US title. Did not need the freaking Hell in a Cell stipulation at all. But they tried to make it work. The match itself was okay. That chain spot where Rusev had the accolade on Roman, dangerous spot. But the match itself was nice. They had okay chemistry. The feud itself wasn't great because Roman was a dick for most of it and only wanted the US title. But the match itself was okay. It was just okay. And that spear spot for the finish, pretty good. So I'll give this one, I'll put it in between the Cena Orton matches, because that's how I feel about them. Next is Seth Rollins versus Kevin Owens for the Universal Championship. Pretty good match. This one was definitely the best of the 3 Hell in a Cell matches that we've had. The spot, I just think back always to that sequence that Rollins and Owens have, ending with the clothesline. If you know the sequence, you know it was great. And of course, the spots were very well executed. The story they were trying to tell was good. Rollins acting like a commendable babyface, despite being his turn rather being kind of bad. Owens looked like a credible champion inside Hell in a Cell. Wish he did more Hell in a Cell stuff. We'll get to one event. We'll get to the other one later. But the match itself was good. It was very, very good. And the interference with Chris Jericho at the end definitely amped the ante that much. And this one I could forgive more because they've had a good match at Clash of Champions, and they've had several Raw matches in between. They're, again, overexposure of the feud is not good, guys. But yeah, Owens continues to look good. I'll give this one a solid tier. Very, very well executed match. Next is Charlotte versus Sasha Banks. The Raw Women's title. First Raw Women's main event pay-per-view. Yeah, that's what I called it. But yeah, it was the first pay-per-view main event by women. It's the first main evented with Hell in a Cell. It's the first women's Hell in a Cell match, period. It was... And the match itself... It's definitely the weak. I think this might be their weakest pay-per-view match they've had, because the Raw matches that they had, the July 25th and October 3rd matches that they had were good. The SummerSlam match was good. And then then we come to this one. This is probably the weakest one because you've had good spots at the beginning with Charlotte powerbombing Sasha through the announce table, basically recreating that Dean Ambrose Seth Rollins stretcher thing from 2 years ago. Lol. Sasha coming back and putting on that babyface fire. It was nice, and it's in her hometown of Boston, so the crowd were definitely backing her up, and we wanted Sasha to have a long, credible reign after having 2 good matches on Raw to capture the title. But the match got clunky afterwards. The table spots didn't want to work because they just lightly pushed each other through the tables. That wasn't good. They didn't have the good table spots. Charlotte was tossing Sasha around a lot, especially the ending wasn't good. The finish of the match wasn't good, and it's so hard to watch. And Charlotte won, which a lot of people took issue because Sasha was healthy around this time and can definitely carry into a good reign, but they didn't choose to utilize it. So I'm gonna say this match was going to solid for a long time, and now I just think it's just okay. Top of okay. Sorry, women. Try again. Next is 2017, where we had 2 Hell in a Cell matches. First off, we had The New Day versus the Usos for the SmackDown Tag Team titles inside Hell in a Cell, and the match was good. It was very, very good. The match was so fun. This definitely felt like a feud ender between what I consider to be the better one of the feuds of the year. Well, one of the better one of the tag team feuds of the year, because we had The Bar, Sheamus and Cesaro, feuding with Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose around this time after feuding with the Hardy Boys. They've had a great Raw feud as well, but New Days versus Usos, they had a story going into this, like Money in the Bank, and they had a good match until the finish, which ended in a countout. They had Battleground, which was a really good match. SummerSlam pre-show was a show stealer. And then you had the Sin City Street Fight, which was nice, and then it all led to Hell in a Cell. The match was delivered. Absolutely. Best match of the night, by far. And yeah, the match, it also helped that it involved all 3 members of New Day, because Kofi and Woods' selling was very, very good. And Jimmy and Jey Uso playing the vicious heels in that match was so solid. Would love to see New Day retain, but Usos winning was nice. I get that. Yes, they hot potatoed the titles for a little bit here, which was the more annoying aspect of this feud, but it was a feud well warranted, and it's just two really good tag teams fighting each other to see who's the best. I like that. It's an awesome match. I'm gonna put it over here. Over here in awesome. Next is Shane versus Kevin Owens. 2017, weird year for Shane and Kevin. After coming off the Festival of Friendship and ending the Universal title reign, Kevin Owens pivoted to SmackDown, where he mostly feuded with Shane. Well, first the AJ feud with the US title, but then you pivot to Shane. And the feud they had was rough. The announcement that it's going to be taking place inside Hell in a Cell was weird. It caught me off guard. And then the match was better than Shane versus Taker. I'll give you that. Shane definitely learned. And I think this one is it's a better spot than the one they had at WrestleMania. Because you didn't have Michael Cole going for the love of mankind. Which was a funny spot. But here, the match definitely delivered because Shane wasn't working with an old, slow Undertaker. It was working with a relatively in his prime Kevin Owens. And the match was brutal. It was brutal. Shane acted like a great babyface. They were wrestling mostly circles around the ring. And the spot, and then of course the closing spot with Shane going around and falling from the top of the cell, into which Sami Zayn helped him out. No, that was a unique finish and really had the timing down. So I'm going to put this at solid. It's not as great as Roman White, but I think it still holds up relatively well. It's an okay watch. Definitely better than matches we had in okay and disappointed and of course crap. Alright, next is 2018. Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton. What a feud. What a feud Orton and Hardy had. After babyface versus babyface at Backlash, which admittedly was a very good match. But the feud really kicked it up a notch, and my god did Randy Orton have an obsession with Jeff's ear. It got to places so uncomfortable that I refused to watch the programming at this point. I quit watching weekly wrestling at that point. But I watched this match. My god, was it absolutely brutal. This feels more Hell in a Cell than most of the matches that we've had in the modern era. This felt like an absolute barnstormer of a match because Orton and Hardy worked so well with each other. The spot with the screwdriver inside the earlobe. Ugh. Cringing. I still cringe to this day looking back at it. But Hardy worked like a house of fire, and the near falls were excellent. Didn't even need to hit an RKO. Jeff just fell down from the top of the ceiling all the way to a table. I wish that was the RKO spot. It would have been a nice RKO spot, but yeah, Orton had the win there. I think it's a great match. I think it's a great match. Definitely not awesome, but it's a great match. Probably around here. Because it definitely feels more Hell in a Cell-y than most of the modern stuff. See, I like my Hell in a Cell matches that are few enders, if you cannot tell already. I like my Hell in a Cell where everything has just been built up and works so well within the confines of a Hell in a Cell. Oh, I can't say the same about the next few matches on this list. Oh my god. First, we had Roman Strowman inside Hell in a Cell. This match was bad. I have to admit, this match sucked. Not all of it sucked, but because Roman and Strowman do work well, and this was Strowman's Money in the Bank cash-in. I feel like this one was an entire waste, though. Because A, they started feuding, and B, Mick Foley, unneeded special referee, and C, could have done differently. You could have had Strowman use the Money in the Bank to win here. Like, what? There's so many like other options that you could have had to make this to make the booking here better. And you chose to do the worst one imaginable by having Brock come in and clobber both Roman and Strowman, clobber Mick Foley, making the whole Hell in a Cell match leading up to that pointless. So yeah, match was crap. Even then, the action I didn't feel like kicked into the high gear. Like, it didn't have that third act of really close near false finishes. It was just standard WWE smorgasbord up until that point. And bleh, not a good match. Next is 2019. Becky versus Sasha inside Hell in a Cell. This match did not need the Hell in a Cell stipulation, personally. But goddamn, did the women really showed up here. Becky and Sasha really showed that they are belonging on the main stage here. And the feud didn't necessitate the Hell in a Cell stipulation, but the match certainly over-delivered in more ways than one. Like, the spots were nice. You had multiple chair shots. The table spots work, and the kendo stick shots were great. And the match itself, so solid. So much good in good faith that I considered Becky's title reign much better than a lot of people give it credit for, because people were starting to really not like the longevity of Becky's title reign. But the match itself was very good. Solid even. I'll put this in solid. It's not, there are better women's Hell in a Cell matches in later years, but this match was a good step up from Charlotte and Sasha, so I'll put this at solid. What was not solid, though, was Rollins and Fiend. You've probably heard about this match on so many podcasts around the wrestling scene around that time. A lot of people really quit wrestling around this point, and oh my god, when this match dropped, and the longer it went, I was starting to think, yeah, maybe it's a good time I hang up my wrestling, wrestling fandom as well, because the match was so bad. Oh man, Seth wasn't a good babyface around this time. Nobody liked him, especially Twitter, because he was braggadocious about his salary. The Fiend didn't need the monster push yet. He needed to get ready. He shouldn't be competing for championships. The Hell in a Cell was rushed. And the match itself was painted in a bright shade of red. And nobody liked it. My eyes had to I had to look away from the screen a lot when watching this match, because, oh my god, this match looks so ugly. And they couldn't even have a proper finish with it. The Fiend just took all the hits, including the multiple chair shots, including the multiple weapon shots, including the toolbox shot. And then the referee just decided to call it quits because the Hell in a Cell matches was too violent. Yeah, I didn't like it. Nobody in the world didn't like this match. 0 stars. Absolute bottom of the barrel crap. WWE booking was so bad. That's why a lot of people quit. And then the pandemic hit. 2020. Where we had 3 Hell in a Cell matches. Oh no! But to be fair to WWE, at least these 3 offered a different flavor of cell feel around this time. First off, we had Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso. I quit match. A lot of people were very surprised about Jey Uso being the number 1 contender. Whether the experiment has worked or not, now that we're in the position to say in 2026 where Jey Uso is at now, a former Rumble winner, world champion, what have you, does he belong still in the main event scene? That's really up to the universe to decide. But this match was not as good as their Clash of Champions match, but it was still very good. It was a nice little. There was so many stipulations in this one. I quit, Hell in a Cell. If Jay loses, he cannot challenge for the title and has to act as Roman's right hand man for the rest of his career. Like that. There's a lot of the things that they threw at us with this one, but Roman's early tribal chief work has been immaculate up to this point. The glow up was nice. And then the match it was solid enough to be presentable to open the show as well. This opened Hell in a Cell, if you couldn't believe it. And yeah, the match itself was good. What more else can you say? But the match itself was good. It was solid. I liked the finish with Jimmy Uso being introduced. It was nice. I'll put this in solid tier right around here, I'd say. Yeah, I feel like that's fitting. Next is Bayley versus Sasha Banks. Now, this one was a brutal match. Sasha Banks really was the MVP of Hell in a Cell matches around that time. She had matches with all of them, all the 4 horsewomen inside Hell in a Cell. And what better way to cap it off with her most distinguished rival. Bayley had an amazing reign as SmackDown Women's Champion, and this was the culmination of their role model storyline, which got a proper conclusion, and then ended wonderfully. This was a violent, brutal women's Hell in a Cell match, and Sasha played like a believable babyface. Bayley had the audacity to have so many heel moments and work well with him. And yeah, the spots were incredible. The near falls were excellent. All the chair shots were pretty brutal, and yeah, a well deserved match. And I kind of wish this one main evented, honestly. Bayley tapping out to the boss's the bank statement, and then having to force her to tap out like that. That's a good cap off to Bayley's title reign, and you know, what a way to end off that championship reign and present a new one with Sasha. Very, very good match. I will put this as the best women's Hell in a Cell match they've ever done. I'll put this in awesome. Just an excellent match all around. Next is Drew versus Orton, where we've had a really good Roman Reigns and Jey Uso match, and we had a really good Sasha Banks versus Bayley Hell in a Cell match. This one was the most bog standard one of the. This one was the weakest of the 3, and definitely the most bog standard. The match itself was typical WWE main event slop. Is the best way I could describe it. There were some nice moments with Drew falling from the side of the cell was nice. The multiple spots inside the cell were nice. The multiple false finishes they had inside the cell were pretty nice, but laughably, they went with Randy Orton to take the victory here. What? To give him a 14th World Championship? No. Many people were baffled by the decision to have Drew not continue his reign of dominance and instead have Orton win to give Drew a second reign in like 2 weeks on Raw. I didn't like it. I didn't like that decision. However, it was nice. It was a very nice continuation, or at least this ended the feud. However, the match itself was very 3-star. So I'll put this at solid. It was solid. Next is Roman versus Rey Mysterio. Not inside Hell in a Cell on the pay-per-view. They had this on the SmackDown, and the match was good. The match was it felt very SmackDown-y to put this, and they've had 4 Hell in a Cell matches in 2025 actually. Before them in the span of like a week. Hilariously. Yeah, the match itself was good. The Ray acted. This was only Ray's only Universal Championship. I think this is his only World Championship like attempt at all. If you're not including like the Seth Rollins like tryout at 2019, but this one was really Ray's only world title pursuit in this latest run, and the match was good. Definitely not the most memorable though, because this was in the midst of Roman's dominance, and you know for a fact that Roman Reigns is going to retain. Ray tried his best, acted like a good babyface. However, the match ended up under-delivering. I thought it was just okay. So I'll put this here. Next is Bianca Belair versus Bayley, Hell in a Cell. Good match. Bayley continuing her track record for having delivered great matches and under expectations. They've had a good match at Backlash, and then they really delivered inside Hell in a Cell. This wasn't supposed to be the end of the feud, though. They were supposed to have an I Quit match afterwards. But I feel like in hindsight, though, the match they had at Hell in a Cell, I think it was a solid conclusion to their rivalry. And, you know, definitely proved Bianca's worth as a top player in the SmackDown Women's division up to this point. So give it a solid. Drew versus Bobby Lashley, though, for the WWE Championship, which main evented, not exactly memorable. It was fine. There wasn't really anything wrong with it. Drew was the credible choice to challenge Lashley, which, you know, they've had a good match at WrestleMania, which opened WrestleMania. And then you had the triple threat with Strowman, which was very, very good. I wish they kept it as a triple threat going into Hell in a Cell, but you had to have the stipulation of if Drew loses, he can't challenge it anymore. So the match definitely had the added extra intensity in there one, but the match itself definitely was a lot more sluggish than I would like, considering Drew and Lashley weren't really the best pair. I mean, I like their match they had at Backlash 2020. They couldn't deliver this. So, and the spot with MVP at the end was baffling. Why wasn't just a proper Hurt Lock finish really baffled me. So I'm just put it as okay. I'm just gonna put it below Reigns Mysterio because I actually like that one. Alright, next is the Raw match that they had, Bobby Lashley versus Xavier Woods. Woods really had a breakout year in 2021. He would later go on to win King of the Ring here. But the Raw match that he had with Bobby Lashley, it was fine. They basically tried to replicate what Reigns and Mysterio did, but I feel like it underwhelmed to a certain degree. So the match itself disappointed me. I wish it was for the WWE Championship so we could have that extra fire for Woods, but nah. Disappointed. Top of disappointed. Nothing much else to say about that match in particular. Next is Edge versus Seth Rollins. What a feud ender. What a feud Edge and Rollins had in 2021. After, you know, the 7-year thing with the Rollins threatening to curb stomp Edge was very nice. And then you had basically the reason for that feud. And they just work so well together because they're very much so similar. I didn't expect Edge and Rollins to have this much chemistry with one another. And it ultimately delivered. They've had an awesome match at SummerSlam. They've had a great match on SmackDown. And then you had the Crown Jewel Hell in a Cell match. And, you know, the spots they had were brutal. The near falls they had were amazing. The crowd was certainly into it. And the finish with Edge stomping Rollins out was nice. I can't speak I can't speak more or less about this match. The feud going into it was nice. The promo packages were going into it was nice. It was just a solid encounter. Maybe even an awesome encounter. I'll put this in awesome. The below awesome. Next is Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins inside Hell in a Cell in 2022. Man, I feel so bad for Cody here. He had the momentum so much on his side because Rollins was basically a chump throughout all of this because he lost at WrestleMania after demanding a match, and then Rollins and Rhodes had a Cody's return match was a good match. Backlash, you had an amazing match there, and then the culmination of this Hell in a Cell. I think even without going into it with Rhodes having his pec torn off, the match is still freaking phenomenal. I mean, Rollins trying to play mind games by bringing out the Dusty attire was nice. It was a lot shorter of a match than I thought. But man, Rhodes looked like a star here, persevering through all that pain. Maybe he shouldn't have proceeded with it because he really needs to take time to heal his pec, but for going through with it, he looked like a badass, and he truly, truly delivered. This one is going in awesome. Personally, I think this match is a little overrated a little bit. I don't think it should be 5 stars, but it is an incredible match. An incredible match to watch. Just for the sheer fact that Rhodes had to fight off through all this pain to make Seth Rollins look good and to definitely beat him to win the feud. Amazingly, Rhodes won all 3 of the feuds. I really wish they could have traded wins back and forth. But Rhodes really put the stamp to beat Rollins inside Hell in a Cell, and it worked. Worked so well. Next is Edge versus Finn Balor at WrestleMania 39. A lot of this match was sadly cut because of the blood on Finn. However, the match itself was really good. The feud going into it was very good, even though Edge won a lot of the feud. He won at Clash at the Castle. He lost to Finn, admittedly, in Extreme Rules with the I Quit match. Returned at the Rumble. Then, bafflingly, Edge and Beth beat Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley at Elimination Chamber. And then WrestleMania comes around. Finn had a lot of momentum going into this side. The Demon, bringing out the Demon for one last Hell in a Cell to go up against the rated R Demon himself, Edge. And inside Los Angeles, the City of Angels, very, very good match. Not the best match of WrestleMania 39, but in the Hell in a Cell sphere, I think it's a good match. Awesome, even. Because the spots were great, the match was fantastic. Both Edge and Finn really proved themselves to be top of the line in their game. Very, very good. Very solid. And finally, we come to Punk versus Drew. And yes, I have not put a 5-star Hell in a Cell match. Rhodes versus Rollins was close, but I feel like the match is a little overrated. But I feel like Punk versus Drew is a 5-star match in and of itself. Great match. The story necessitated it. And just the overwhelming blood of it. The spots with the bracelet are nice. All the chair shots to the head are great. The false finishes are incredible. The crowd was so hyped into it. And yeah, just Drew just bouncing and missing the Claymore into the steps was great. And then yeah, it was. What more can I say? This is a modern masterpiece, Hell in a Cell, in a perfect way. Perfect way to end the feud of Drew and Punk. So that's it. That's all the Hell in a Cell matches. Yeah, I had a lot to say, especially especially the modern stuff. I had a lot to say, but yeah, the match, yeah, Hell in a Cell itself was really it had a lot of crap. Yes, we did have a lot of crap over the years. However, we got some mid ones and we got some solid ones along the way, and ultimately the modern stuff. So what does that mean? I mean, don't overexpose Hell in a Cell too much. That's 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 the first step into making a good Hell in a Cell match. And second, treat it like a feud ender, which a lot of these from Solid onwards were all treated as feud enders. And yeah, and just have it be good. And every one of these matches are fantastic. The 5-star and awesome and solid, and even parts of solid. I loved going back and rewatching some of these. It was very, very nice going back and rewatching all these amazing Hell in a Cell matches. It was not worth it to watch all these ones, though. Oh, I would never want to watch these ones again. But the good ones are always the ones standing out, and truly what makes Hell in a Cell such a spectacle to watch, and why it is one of the best stipulations WWE has ever had. Alright, so thank you guys so much for watching. Please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe. I wonder post a comment anywhere telling me where Brock versus Oba should be. I personally want it to be a 5-star match, but even an awesome match between Brock and Oba definitely worth the serve. I hope Brock and Oba just don't phone it in for Lesnar's potentially last match. So, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all enjoy SummerSlam, and yeah, this has been McCoy, signing out.